I invested quite a lot of money in Rivian, and I told you guys that I'm doing it and also Lucid and the same thing on Tesla. But it seems that Rivian is going bankrupt. So you know what, guys? Let's talk about cars, yo. Hit it, Sergio. So today we want to answer the good old question, is Rivian going to go bankrupt? As I drive my Rivian, by the way, of course, product placement so you can buy my shares. But before we really get into this, I want to ask you guys a question and I want you to tell me what you think. And then we'll touch on it after we talk about Rivian, right? And that question for you guys is, do you guys think the electric car is going to disappear? Do you guys think there's going to be a combination going towards the future of electric cars and regular combustion engines and hybrids? Or do you think there'll be two classes of vehicles? Those for the super rich that can drive their fancy cars with a regular engine, and then everybody else is going to have an electric car. I want to know what you guys think, and we'll talk about it and the reason why we're talking about it, which I think it's very important for everyone in Europe specifically. But we'll get to that in a second. So right now the question is Rivian. What's going on with Rivian? So for those of you who live under a rock, Rivian is an electric car maker. These guys came in when they started, basically, they got funded privately. And after they got funded privately for many years, they operated without telling anyone they even existed. They tested their cars all around South America, all over the US, and they disguised their cars. So after years of them trying to figure this out, they actually found like the perfect formula and they were happy. So they announced their car, this one that I'm in, the R1T, which is the pickup, and also the SUV, the R1S, at the LA Auto Show. I remember I was there years ago because a friend of mine invested in the company. So he told me that, I'm opening this company, you should check it out. I'm doing a car. And I was like, oh my God, someone else doing another car, right? Even though he's my boy, I love you, dude. But, everybody was trying to do the same thing. And when I saw the car at the LA Auto Show, I was blown away by the quality. And I said, there's no way they're really going to do it. So here we are. At the time, Ford decided to invest in them. And then Amazon decided to invest in them $700 million. And Ford, I believe, actually backed out. Then they got money from other companies and other funds. And they've been building ever since. On their first year delivering cars, they were able to deliver over 50,000 cars, which is an insane amount for an electric car maker. This is after Tesla, the second best-selling EV car maker in the United States. We're not going to touch on BYD or the Chinese ones because in the United States, we can't buy those cars. So in the US, there's Tesla with 1 million deliveries. Then there's Rivian with 57,000 deliveries. And then there is Lucid with a total of, I believe, 9,000 so far. And what happened a couple days ago, actually, or probably even a week ago now when you're watching this, was that Rivian announced their results, their quarterly earnings. And their expectations were about $1.28 billion in sales. And they actually crushed that. They went $1.32 billion, I believe, around there. And people weren't happy. And the reason why they weren't happy is because the guidance forward, which means I'm telling you what's going to happen in the near term with our company, was we're not going to be able to hit our target of 80,000 deliveries this year. We're going to do 57,000 again. And people absolutely lost their mind. Rivian came down 25% in just one day, and the next day it dropped another 12% on the 25 that had already dropped. So you're looking at a big considerable drop from those prices. When I was telling you guys, look at Rivian, it was about $15. And right now, Rivian's at $10 a share. And it got to basically a really low price of like low tens, right? And I was wondering, why is everything else not dropping like Rivian? Not even Lucid. Lucid did kind of like the same thing and no one cared. But with Rivian, they certainly did. And I'm getting a lot of messages from a lot of you guys. And this is why it's important to have your own plan of investment and to do it long term with money that you don't need right away. and also to learn how to do it. And the reason why is I can tell you what looks attractive. But for example, when it was time for results to be announced, if you're a trader, you know you don't want to be in it on that trade. So I did sell my shares before the announcement. And then I rebought them back when it was at 11 something, thinking there's no way it's going to come down more. And then it went to $10 flat. And I went in even more. The lowest entry that I have is about $10.11. That never happens to me. But at the same time, I still have more of that position that I cashed out, waiting to see if I buy right now or if it's going to drop a little bit more. I'm patient. I'm not in a rush. This is a long-term play. And I'm getting a lot of messages from you guys saying, is Rivian going to go bankrupt? And I just want to say, obviously, what you hear, and Elon Musk contributed to this. Elon was like, oh my God, Rivian's going to go bankrupt if they continue to burn their cash like this in 6 more quarters. And let me just give you the financials right now for Rivian. Rivian has about $9.5 billion in cash, and the company's worth about those $9.5 billion. Does that make any sense to you guys? And also at the same time, a lot of people are saying, well, yeah, but they're going to burn more cash. They're going to, that means they're going to create a bigger deficit because they're losing money in every single car. And RJ, the CEO, went on TV and said, by the end of 2024, we're probably going to be profitable. Now, is that true? We're going to see. Probably it's going to take a little longer, but I don't think they're that far off. Now, another thing that people noticed was that they were losing more money now per vehicle than they were before. And the reason why it went from like $30,000 per vehicle that they were losing to like $43,000, it's simple. Tesla cut prices, everybody else cut prices, Rivian cut prices. So obviously you cut the price, you're going to make less on the car. So your margins are going to be affected. And while you're still growing in a negative way, with each car that you're selling, it's costing you a little extra, you're losing money basically. But now, let me ask you this, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's the end, it's never going to come back. What other brand has created the brand appeal that Rivian has created other than Tesla, for example, in the space? No one. No one. Everywhere I go, and I live in a really nice fancy neighborhood called Newport Coast. And in Newport Coast, having a Rivian is a status symbol. I used to live in Hidden Hills, which is a really nice gated community. And in Hidden Hills, having a Rivian is a status symbol. That is not easy to achieve. The product is great. The range on the cars is great. I want to say the build quality is incredible. And the company's fun, agile, and it works basically just like Tesla. It's a great company in my view. Now, are they going to go bankrupt? I just don't think so. I think right now they're in such a sweet spot because you look at Mercedes, you look at Ford, you look at GM, and they're all cutting back on their production of EVs. If you cut back on your production of EVs, then it makes no sense economically speaking to build EVs. And the reason why is because of the economy of scale. EVs work when you mass produce them, when you mass buy the batteries, and that allows for pricing to come down on materials, cost of production goes down, etc. The other thing of why that no one is actually looking into that is driving me nuts is they're saying, well, they're making less cars this year, they're expecting to sell less. No. The reason why they're delivering the same amount of cars, it's because they are actually stopping production so that they can redo their production line and become more efficient and more cost efficient too at the same time. So they're going to be able to crank out more cars for less money. And they also have the R2 model, which is like the smaller one of this, and and probably the other one, the full SUV. They have a smaller model coming out, and that's kind of like their Model 3, Model Y moment. And that became the best seller in the United States above the Toyota Corolla. So Rivian is positioning itself in a great sweet spot right now. The only thing that makes sense to me of why the price would be so low and why it got so punished compared to Lucid, why it got so much, Tesla. The reason why Rivian got extra punished makes no sense to me other than maybe someone is putting them to death so they can buy the company. Because if you're Ford, why not buy an upscale brand for your stuff? You can't get it together with the way that you're producing the cars. We know that. Why wouldn't you buy the company Rivian as a whole? Right now it's worth $10 billion. And then you just put it as an arm in your dealerships, and then you start modeling all of your company around that model. And that way you don't have to call people that have had Ford dealerships for 30 years and say, hey buddy, we want to change to this model. Because that's what they're doing right now. They're trying to make all of their sales happen online, and they're pushing incentives to dealers so they can sell more online. So you know that they want to do that. And sadly, it's going to affect the dealer owners, although whether they like it or not, or they don't think about it, it will affect dealer owners. But moving in and transitioning into a model like this would be so much easier if you have the perfect excuse, and that is Rivian. So I'm not saying, oh, Rivian is going to be done if no one buys them. Absolutely not. I think any person with a brain would invest in a company that's done so many electric cars already in their year one, that already has a package with the R2 and also the Amazon trucks, the Amazon vans, actually, the electric vans. And now those can be turned into FedEx, they can be turned into DHL, or any other company can actually use them. So altogether, is Rivian gonna go bankrupt? I just don't see it. I don't see it. I think there's too much value in the brand. Anyone would love to have it. If I had $100 billion, I no doubt buy Rivian and continue it so that it grows to where it's supposed to go. Because there's no one in the space doing what they're doing. There's no one in the space having this value brand that Rivian has actually been able to do. Their cars are really well priced. Their cars look great. They function amazingly. We never have any problems with this thing. And they're really well built. So I don't think Rivian's going to go down. I myself, I'm continuing to invest at this price level and just still have more dry powder, which is cash, in case another opportunity and it comes down more. Because literally this company cannot be worth just what they have in cash when you've built what you've built as a whole. That is my take. I want to know what you guys think, and please let me know if I'm missing any details. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is something that they're trying to pass in the European Union. In the European Union, they're trying to create an amendment towards their mobility rules. And what does that mean? That means that they're trying to add some rules to the cars or the way that you use your car. And that doesn't sound that scary, right? Well, what they're trying to do is make sure that if you have a car that's 15 years or older, you can't fix it. That's what they're trying to do right now. And a lot of people are going to say, so what? Well, they're saying that they're doing this so that we can see more new cars on the streets and we don't see like all these older cars, and it'll make people buy cars. But the reality is, if you don't have any money to buy cars, how are you going to buy a car just because the government is telling you that you need to buy another car? And especially for those that don't have the money. It is absolutely nuts. So what they're in a way doing is they're stopping mobility for a certain amount of people that won't be able to afford to buy a brand new car. That is nuts. And I do think, just to answer the question that I asked you at the beginning of this, I do think that electric cars are going to be the regular peasant shit that everyone is going to drive. And only a few people, and I'm talking about like in 10 years, if you have a GT3 RS 4.0, you're going to be able to take it out like on a weekend. You're going to be able to get a permit so you can drive it on Fridays or on Mondays. But I believe they're going to restrict those cars and everything is going to go into electric. Not for anything else that is the cheapest one to maintain. It's the cheapest one to produce once you actually get into the production dynamics and really do a scalability economics on your model, right? So when you have that, the more cars you make, the cheaper they become to make. So I do think electric cars are going to be the cheapest cars out there by a lot. And at some point, these guys are going to go in and give us like the, oh man, you have one of these ICE cars, like internal combustion engines. Well, you're not going to have to go unless you pay a certain premium so that you can do it. And this goes alongside with everything that we've been seeing that they're doing, all of these people and all of these governments, which is nuts. I want to drive my cars whenever I feel like it. They're my cars. And I feel like a lot, and my situation is different because I'm a little spoiled brat. But this is especially going to affect those who can't afford to just renew and buy a brand new car, and that they need an older car. So let me know in the comments down below what you think. My name is Alejandro, and we just talked about cars, yo. Damn, that was a long one.